Hello, hopefully you can hear this. This is the first time I've ever done a broadcast like this. Um, I'm having a few technical problems, as you'd expect first time. I can't get my camera to connect to the computer. And it's also still a bit hazy and cloudy, so I can't even really see anything. I use my guide camera to align the scope, but the image of the guide camera isn't very good at the moment. If I just whilst to my screen a minute, I'll do this right, go to here. So I don't know if you can see this, but here we are. This is an image from my guide camera. Yeah, you can actually see M13 in the middle there. This is a 10-second exposure to try and get something on screen. So it does at least align the scope. Unfortunately, like I said before, I can't get the ATIK camera to connect at the moment. That runs weirdly. It uses I'm using a Macintosh. However, the only software for the ATIK camera is Windows, and I have to run that in a virtual machine within my Mac. And it's not. It usually connects all right, but for some reason this evening it's not connecting. If I go to my Windows VM and just have a look, here's the ATIK Infinity software in a Windows VM. So as you can see up here, the camera isn't connecting, even though I've rebooted the camera and reconnected it a few times. So it looks like that bit of it isn't going to work tonight, rather unfortunately. It is possible for me to connect the ATIK rather than through this, but to connect it into the actual software I was using a second ago. So this is this thing called, oh no, not that one. I do it wrong every time. Quit that one. I'm running it remotely. So into K-Stars here. This is running on a Raspberry Pi, all this stuff. As you can see, I mentioned before, you can see M13 there. Currently, I've got my DSLR connected to another scope. So if I, for example, go to camera here, let's just see what happens if I do a 30-second exposure at 6400 ASA and see what pops up. I think I've got everything set right there. It's just so now it's going away to capture a 30-second exposure. The other thing I've noticed is I'm dropping lots of frames, so none of this may come out across properly. It might be stuttery, who knows. I don't have fibre broadband, I only have standard broadband. So that might be the reason why the broadcasting software suggests I'm dropping frames. If I go back to the broadcasting software while it's taking that image, you see down here, it's sort of saying it's dropping lots of frames. So we'll have to have we can let me know what that's like. I've just noticed that a moment to answer what though, Paul? I've got something from Paul. Give me a question then, Paul. Do it. You might as well type it if you can, because I don't know if I'm going to get anything through through the internet with my slowish connection. So let's have a see. Sign into chat. What's that you send? Okay. Sign into chat. It says whether that means that it's going to be flying side in, but it's in the web browser. Okay. Let's see what happens there. Say something. Hello. First time I've ever done that. Right, let's get back to K-Stars. Oops, I'm already in that. Let's get there. We have to read 3. That's what I want to be. So here we are. So we're taking an image, but of course, I say of course, we haven't got anything showing because it's a bit too cloudy at the moment. I might be expected to see something. There's absolutely nothing there. Any reason why not? Can't see any reason why not. So let's go back to the software here. Plug the camera again. So plug it back in. Devices, USB, connect the device. Windows connects it. The software doesn't recognize it. Just kill the software again and restart it. No look up here at all. Sorry about that. Right, okay. So back to K-stars. As you can see, this is a quite clever software. It comes with something called, the main software is called K-stars. That's it here. And it has lots of different capabilities. This thing here, the telescope dome, is called ECOS. And through that, you can run your mount, you can run cameras, you can run plate solving, you can run guiding. So that's the way I normally take lots of photos. So I set up plate solving to find the place I want to be, then I get guiding going, and then I set up the camera to take lots of images, and then I stack them later in the evening or the day after. The advantage of the ATIK camera is that when it works, is that it stacks them on the fly there and then for you, which is really nice. So I can't understand why I can't get an image through the DSLR that's on. So let's try that again. So another 30-second image. 6400 ASA ISO, because that'll give us a view of what's out there. Capture failed. That's why I'm not seeing anything. It's not actually capturing properly. Let's see if we can figure out why then. So if I cancel that, let's stop that. Capture aborted, capture failed, check in the control panel. Control panel. Everything's okay there. What I'll do, I'll just stop and start K-stars and see if that solves that problem. Luckily, it sort of knows where it is generally when you restart it. Let's oops, go back to that. Disconnect. Stop. Everything I want there. Let's restart that again. Okay, so it's not finding the DSLR. That's one of the reasons why. So let's stop it again. Just disconnect everything again. Stop it all. Just turn the DSLR on and off. Okay, the DSLR's switched on again. Let's restart all this. That says it's found the camera this time. Let's have a see what happens over here. We start taking an image now. 30 seconds. Said 6400 ASA. Capture an image. Oh yes, shutter just went. Haha, it's working. Well, the DSLR is anyway. Problem I have here, I've got two telescopes on my mount at the moment. I'll show you a picture in a second, so you can see what it looks like. So here we are. So this is as you can see, I've got the Society's 5-inch refractor with the ATIK camera on the end, and I've got an 8-inch telecast with the DSLR on it. And it's very hard to actually align both the telescopes. There's no adjustment to align the telescopes. The guide scope at the top on the refractors align with the refractor, but the TAL isn't quite on the same alignment. So we go back to laptop screen, back to the Safari again. All right, okay, so there we are. So that's, at least something showed, not very well, but that's because something probably weren't set right. I think I'm tracking on. We'll just go back to this, do a 10-second exposure again. So we got the star trails there because tracking had been switched off when I reset K-stars. So I'm just doing another, I've started tracking again. And there's the, right, as you can see, what's happened now over that period of time, it looks like M13's moved from view of the guide scope. So I'm just using the plate solving now to get it back to the center of the guide scope. So what it'll do now, it works out where it was, slews, and then it takes another image. I've got some settings here that say how accurate I want it to be. So what it does, it keeps going through that loop until it gets it within that accuracy. So let's take another 10-second exposure. And as we can see now, well, can't see now. Did something weird then, did it? I wonder if I just stop that a minute, what might have happened. Go to the mount control. M13, okay. Also M13, that's what went wrong. We had not got the correct place to plate solve. So let's try again. So back to plate solving. Capture another one now. Always seem to be lots of technical problems with imaging. So once it's going, it's going. It's sort of getting to the point where everything's working right. Sometimes it can be a 10-minute setup and it's all sorted. Other times it can be like this. Just go and see if there's any. Yes, Stephen, I am sitting in the observatory. If I'm clever enough here, and I go to that, there I am. Hi. I've got silly red lights all the way around it. I can turn them into disco lights if I want, but I don't need autobots. Here we are, back here again. So back to K-stars. on my Raspberry Pi. So here we are again. So there's M13 back in the middle again. This is green here now because it's actually got it to the accuracy that we requested. So that's that done. So if I now go back to my DSLR, I'll do a 30-second exposure again at 6400 ASA. Now I'm not expecting to see M13 in this because, like I said, the scopes aren't aligned because I've not got any adjustment. I'd need some extra mounting gear to be able to align both scopes together. So I've not got around to doing that yet because this is testing up dual scopes. I did this a couple of weeks or a week ago. So it's a new thing for me anyway. You can buy mounting brackets that are adjustable. It depends on the weight you want to take and how much you want to pay for them, of course. So let's now it's just downloading the image from the DSLR. I think it's in the background there. I missed it. No, so there we are. So yeah, so there's the image from the DSLR. As you can see, M13 isn't in the view finder, and it's very hard to actually find it without the guide scope being aligned to it, which is why I have the ATIK camera is attached to the scope at the moment. I don't have a solution to that. I can actually disconnect the DSLR and reconnect the ATIK to the to ECOS and K-stars, and I can use that here. Although that doesn't do any live stacking then. So what I shall do is attempt that. So do that. So what I have to do now is I have to close K-stars down, disconnect, and I have to select another setting here. I've got a setting here that's got my EQ6, the guider, and then the ATIK Infinity and the Meade rather than the DSLR and the TAL. So I connect that. We'll start that one up instead and see if these all start. So here we are now. We've now got similar sort of position again. I'm just going to see, tracking was switched off again. Let's just see what plate solving does. Hope everybody's well at the moment. We seem to have not caught anything yet. We will at some point until the vaccine's produced. So here we are again. So we've got M13 there. And it's just going to realign the scope to put M13 back in the middle again. So we'll wait till that's happened. It'll take another image, another 10-second image. The guide cameras are normally a lot more sensitive than the DSLR, so that's why a 10-second image shows things, whereas with the DSLR, I need longer exposures. The ATIK Infinity camera is actually quite sensitive again. It's more like the guide camera, so I can take short exposures with that and still see things. Now what's it done? Decided to go somewhere else again. It's incomplete. Capturing the image. Let's try again. Something went awry then, didn't it? Any other messages? No, there we are. Right. I'm using one laptop for all of this, so every screen is doing something and there's lots of multitasking going on. Target in acceptable. Doesn't look like it to me. That's supposed to be it there. We've got some more cloud coming or something. Maybe. Well, let's see if we can take a picture of the ATIK while we're at it. So we've now got the ATIK Infinity up there. We can take a, so let's try a 10-second exposure here and just capture that. See what we get. Well, we get something, but we don't get M13, do we? Personally, I think it's the scope's gone to somewhere different again. Let's go to the mount control. Let's try again. Yes. M13. Okay. Slew to M13. I can hear it slewing. Right, back to capture and solve through to target. Let's try again, capture and solve again. So plate solving is something relatively new for me as well. I said new, a few months, and it's just made things actually a lot easier than they used to be. It's a great way to find the targets properly. As I'm sure you're aware, if you just try and look through a telescope and find something, it's almost impossible. So there's M13. Oh, right, straight on it. It's, oh no, what's it doing? So let's see. So there's M13 in the middle. Hopefully it's just moving a tiny amount to get it within the accuracy I've stated. So it's capturing another image. I'm running the solver on the Raspberry Pi, which runs within about, well, it actually says it runs in 7 seconds, I think it is, which is pretty good. Well, 9 seconds that time. Okay, so now we really do have it in the middle. So let's go back to the ATIK again. And we'll take another 10-second image just to have a look at what we're looking at. It should pop up in this frame here. It's got a FITS viewer built into the software. And there we have M13. As you can see, it's not exactly in the middle of my camera view, but it's pretty close. Quite often I just nudge it a little using the controls to try and get it closer to the middle. And what other way of doing that? Because I can use it as the software has a focus mode, pretty good, and you can just run, say, 5-second exposures or 1-second exposure. Let's try 1-second exposure and see what happens. If I loop, so I can loop the images. There we are. And if I nudge the scope, see, it's ready to go. Wrong way. Nudge it back again. So there we are. That's sort of nudged sort of into the middle of that image. We're on the ATIK Infinity, so we've done it for the right camera at least. We'll go back to the camera again now. So what you can do now, for example, so that was a 10-second exposure. Let's just do a 30-second exposure. So I don't think that'll work at the moment because I've just realised I've got that focuser still running. So I've got to stop the focuser. Okay, that's better now. We'll go back to the camera again. Try this again, a 30, see if it works this time. This time seems to be working, it's counting down. So the camera was held by the other bit of the other thread. So this exposure is 30 seconds as opposed to 10 seconds for the initial one I did. Pops up, doesn't come to the forefront. So there we are. So there's a better image of M13. You can see a lot of, I think it's the Fitz viewer that creates this little pattern on here somehow. Once you take lots of images and you take flats and darks, you can get rid of most things there. So what I can do, what you can do now, for example, is I can start. So I want to do 30-second exposures. So I want to take 10 of them. 12. I'll take 12. I can do. I'm doing lights. I'm doing M13. I always use a date in something there. So the date is the 19th of April today. So I just change that to the 19th. I'll store them onto the Raspberry Pi in that directory. I'll load that into that. I say start. What it's doing now is it's taking 12 30-second images. And here's like the control bit that tells me how far it's got in what it's doing. Now, I've not started guiding. 30-second images might not require guiding. So we'll leave it without guiding for the moment. When we get an image up, we'll look at that. We zoom in a bit and see what the stars look like. So here's the first image. Oh, look, we had a satellite. At least it wasn't the Starlink satellites with hundreds of them going across. So we zoom in a bit here now. Yeah, they're not bad, are they really? Colours are sort of an issue. So this is a colour camera, so you get to see colour images. They never seem to show colour as much. When you image the Orion Nebula M42, you get lots of colour. But looking at stars and things, I get very little colour showing sometimes. I know stars do have colours, of course, due to the temperature. But I find it very hard to process the colour into my pictures, unless it's something very bright like the Orion Nebula. Something I've still got to learn yet. So we're on our way to, we've taken 2 images, of course, but one's already been lost because it had the satellite going through it. And it'll just keep plugging away, taking these images for us. Like I said, I've not got guiding switched on because I'm only taking short exposures. And what I can do later on tonight, I can take flats and darks and I can stack these images. Well, we can publish them in orbit next month, maybe. What's the sky like outside? Let's have a quick look through my slot, as they say. Oh, I can actually see a satellite as well. Just going through the plough. So it's clearish. There's still quite a lot of light on the horizon. I'm in Eastbourne, or on the outskirts of Eastbourne, so it's not as if it's a dull place from a light pollution aspect. I'm sure some of you with much nicer places to observe from. Okay, so we're to 5 images now. Right, have we got any more comments, anybody? Anything I might be able to ask? Answer? Okay. I'm swapping screens and lots of stuff. Yes, I am. We've answered that one. So back to. I'm running all this on a Raspberry Pi 3. Initially, I didn't think it was powerful enough to run all the software, but it seems to run fine. I run it I'm running it remotely basically. I'm running it through a browser, so I'm using the Apple browser. It's called Safari. I'll make sure I'm on the right bit of so you can see all it. Yep. So I'm using the Safari browser on Apple, and I've got a window here that talks to the Raspberry Pi. Raspberry Pi's, well, I'm running the Raspberry Pi with this Astroberry software installed. I did buy a Raspberry Pi 4 as well because I thought this wasn't going to be good enough, but it seems to be working fine. At least then if I've got two Raspberry Pis, if I need to, I can take one out if I want to go observing outside somewhere and connect. The Raspberry Pis have got Wi-Fi built in and Bluetooth, all that kind of stuff, so you don't have to have a wired connection to your mount. So I'm running it through the Wi-Fi at the house. And we're still plugging away here with the images. One thing, the stacking software I use is Deep Sky Stacker, and once again that's Windows software. So when I run stacking process, I have to run that in my Windows virtual machine again. I use Oracle VirtualBox, which is free. I try and use free software if possible. I did have a pucker version of Windows. I just upgraded it. I had it on Windows 10. Well, I've just upgraded the version of Windows 10, and now it won't let me activate it for some reason. I've not figured that out yet. So when I go, so for example, when you see this here, let's go back. See, we're getting the activate Windows thing there, which I never used to get. So I don't quite understand what's happened there. There will never be a camera connected at the moment because, of course, I've got it connected to the other bit of software instead. It is possible to take images with the ATIK and replay them and play them back, basically, and alter the settings for what processing you're doing on them on the fly again. I've not got any save though. Let's go back to, here we are. So up to 11 now. So much the Windows virtual machine and Windows uses lots of CPU power, so I get the fan going quite a lot on it. I can hear the fan going now, hopefully you can't. Let me know how the video is broadcasting and the sound, whether or not it's coming through okay or whether it's stuttering or whatever. I'd just be interested to know whether or not I need to upgrade my Wi-Fi connection and go to fibre. Oh, it costs more, of course. Up to now, I've not had any particular reason to need fibre. Downloading software every now and again doesn't take that long, so that's not a problem. But, if it's an issue for this, then I need to think about it again. Right, okay, so we've taken all 12 images. Let's go back here. It tells me to take all 12, finished 100%. If I go back to that now says it's complete. I don't know if you were, but to take darks, I mean, I've already got darks, I suppose, for the ATIK, and I've also got flats. Flats could change from time to time, but I haven't changed the optical train since the last time I used the ATIK, so my flat should still work, theoretically, as long as no more dust motes of landing on anything. Cover the scope up when it's not in use, of course, with a lens hood, whatever you want to call it, cover. So it shouldn't affect it. Okay, so I'm going to finish there. So we did get M13 in view. Not quite the way I wanted because I can't get the ATIK Infinity connected to the ATIK Infinity software. I'll have to have another play with that to see if I can do that next time. So I'll say thank you for now. And I do actually have. So we've gone back here. So back to that. So I say thank you and goodbye. It's nice to give me any comments you want. And what scope was I using? Okay, I'm using a Meade. Let's go back a minute then. Yeah, we'll go back to, I'm back. And the picture of the gear, there we are, the daytime picture. So the scope is the Meade 127 Triplet APO refractor. So it's the long white tube there, of course, for those that don't know. And it's an ATIK Infinity camera at the end. There's no wires on that because that was just after I'd set it up on that new dual mounting plate. So that's why there's no wires showing there connecting it. So that's what the camera and the scope were. At the top of that, on top of the refractor, you can see I've got an Orion Star Shooter auto guider with an Orion mini guide scope, which generally works fine for me. So that's what scope I was using. The actual focal length of the scope is 952 millimeters, I believe. So I think about f7. Looking at some of the stuff on the web, the scope focal length and aperture and the camera pixel size are all okay. You can have under and over sampling, I'm learning about slowly, but apparently it's about right for what I'm doing at the moment. Okay, so hopefully if I get something else set up for a future time, I'll let everybody know by email again, and we'll see what happens. Like I said, let me know if things works all right at your end, if anything I could do better. Lots of things, of course.